appreciate you guys coming. Simon just walked in, so I was going to do a quick intro. But I want to just give you a quick background. CEOTalks has been probably one of the more successful things we've done at Next Jump University. And the whole proposition was providing access to both education and inspiration. And what I've done is I've had the fortune of meeting some amazing people who have personally given me incredible education and inspiration. And I would put Simon at the top of that list. And it's amazing what Simon has done, sort of meeting with us. We're in a very short window, probably 90 days since we first met. Simon's had this profound impact in helping myself clarify not something that we didn't always know or do before, but adding clarity to our why we exist. Not why I started the company, but why I run the company today, and why we exist as a group of individuals at a company. And so since the 90-day window, I've had and seen more clients actually utter the words, "I love these guys, I love Next Jump," than I've ever seen in 18 years of history. So more happening in 90 days. I've seen our employee culture take a whole nother level. In fact, last Friday, I guess we had reflections where the company broke up for 3 hours brainstorming what sucks and what sucks less. And there was virtually nothing about the company, and everyone got obsessed about how to make the product better. And I think the profound impact on this clarity of why. This Monday in our staff meeting, one of the awesome things I heard from Tom was our email response rates, because of the explosion of daily deals and every other emailing, got down to 1% response rate. So emailing a ton of people, 1%. In literally 4 weeks, with applying the why framework and applying our better me plus you equals us, it's at 5% now in 4 weeks. So it's like astronomical in terms of we're making more money because of it. Our culture is stronger. Clients are saying, "I love you." So this is awesome stuff. So I want to just turn it over to Simon, and really excited to have him here. And plus, this is the first Next Jump University we open it up to invite family members, a couple of key clients, and welcome. We want to share sort of this whole educational process. So with that, Simon, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. I'll tell you why I'm here, and then I'll explain how that happens. The insanity. I have a simple belief. I believe that fulfillment is a right and not a privilege. I don't believe that fulfillment should be the bastion of those chosen few who are lucky enough to, say that they love their jobs. I believe we all have the right to say that we love our jobs. And we currently live in a world in which the vast majority of people do not love what they do. They may like what they do, but they don't love it. And you ask people, do you like your job? Yeah, I really like my job. I get paid well. I like the challenge. I like the people I work with. Do you love your job? Well, I wouldn't go that far. We know there's a hierarchy, and it's very hard to get people to tell you that they love something when they don't. And my journey to sort of reverse this statistic, to create this world in which the vast majority of people wake up in the morning inspired to go to work and return home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that they do. My journey began when I woke up in the morning unfulfilled by my work. In fact, it was a lot worse than that. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. And I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. I lived my life sort of pretty happy-go-lucky. And being sad was unusual. And so this period of my life, September 05 to December 05, I remember the dates. It was probably the darkest period I've ever had. It was probably the closest I've ever come if I wasn't completely depressed. And what had happened was I lost my passion for what I was doing. And people give you silly advice like, do what you love. I'm doing the same thing and I don't love it anymore, Or, the only people who tell you, do what you're passionate about are people who are already doing what they're passionate about. That's not the problem. We know that. The problem is how do you do that? It's not very actionable advice. And so, from all superficial standards, I should have been happy. I owned my own little business. I made a living. I had fantastic clients. Did good work. There was no problem there. There was no problem in the quality of the work. The problem was I didn't care, or I couldn't feel it, and I would make things up, as we tend to do. But for the confluence of a few events, I don't know what would have happened. But I'd come from the marketing world, always fascinated by organizations of equal resources, why some were better at marketing than others. And so I wrote down what I called the golden circle, even back then, because I noticed a hierarchy in how great marketers communicated to us. And it wasn't until I met someone who started asking me, do you know how the human brain works, which I didn't, started telling about the limbic brain and the neocortex. And the more I started to read about the human brain, the more I learned is that the way in which the human brain actually makes decisions, the way in which we view ourselves and sort of create bonds with each other, directly overlap with this little model I had written sitting on a shelf. In other words, I hadn't discovered why marketing works. I discovered why people do what they do. And it's based on three very, very simple principles. I mean, it is the world's simplest idea. It's just a bullseye. In the middle is why, the center ring is how, and the outside ring is what. Every single organization on the planet, even our own careers, always function on these three levels. The problem is, we don't always know what they all are. Every single person here, every single organization on the planet knows what they do. It's the job you do, it's the things you sell, it's the services you offer, whatever. Some know how they do it. These are the things that you think make you different or special or stand out from the crowd. A business would say it's our differentiating value proposition, proprietary process, USP, whatever you want to call it. An individual, these are the things we put in our resume, it's our superior education, I don't know, I'm smart about it. But very, very few of us can clearly articulate why we do what we do. And by why, I don't mean to make money, I don't mean to get a promotion, I don't mean to pay the bills. I mean, why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning, and why should anyone care? This is what I didn't know. And if every single one of our careers and lives function on these three levels as a biological constant, then I had to know that if I was to feel in balance. This is who you are. Who you are is the sum total of these things. And if one of those pieces is missing, it's rough. And so I became obsessed with this thing. And I figured out how to find my own why. And more importantly, I figured out how to find others, help others find theirs. And as we do, when we find something that is beautiful or valuable, we share it with our friends. We share it with the people we love, right? You go see a great movie or read a great book, what do? You call up your friends and say, you gotta see this movie, right? It's like they can read the reviews themselves. They can do their own research. They don't need you, but this is what we do. We have a desire to share the things that we enjoy and the good things that we have in our life with the people we love. And this, by the way, is the very basis of the human race. We're social animals. Our very survival depends on our ability to form strong bonds of trust with each other. And we don't have the time to learn every lesson that needs to be learned again and again. We don't have the inclination to double check every fact, and this is why we need to form trust, because when lessons are passed down contemporarily or even through time, we have to trust that the information is good so that we can build upon it. It's called progress. Otherwise, we'd always just be relearning the same lessons every single time, and we would remain stagnant. The problem is who to trust. This is the problem. When we lived in the trees, life was good, and then we evolved. We came down out of the trees, we evolved into bipedal animals, and we started wandering across the savannas, and we learned very, very quickly that if you walk across the savannah by yourself, you get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. And so we evolved into social animals. It's safer to walk across the savannah in a group, right? We're more likely to survive when we're together. The problem is, which group, right? If the saber-toothed tiger comes charging up at the group, and the person who you're facing this way, and the person who sees it coming and steps out of the way because they know you're not looking and you get eaten, it's not a very good group. It's the one that either takes the lion themselves or pushes you out of the way, whatever it is. It's called sacrifice. It's called being there for someone else. It's called trust. It's called trust. That's all it is. And trust is a feeling. It is not a checklist. Simply doing everything you say you're going to do does not mean people will trust you. And so I took this thing that I found beautiful to the friends that I loved and who loved me, and I shared it with them. My friends started making crazy life changes, and they would invite me to their homes to share it with the people that they loved. And I would go to someone's apartment and talk about this little discovery. And people would come to me and say, can you help me find my why? And I did it on the side for $100. And for real. And that's all it was. It was something that I was doing on the side because it was my pleasure to do it. And I had more excitement for life than I'd ever had ever before. I was more passionate again than I'd ever had before, to levels unforeseen. And strange things started to happen. I literally stopped talking about what I do. And I only talked about what I believed. And the reason, again, is biological. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, the way the human brain evolved corresponds precisely with this little idea, right? The outside area is called our neocortex, which is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains. Our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision making, and it has no capacity for language. Meaning, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information, like facts and figures and features and benefits and numbers and data. Absolutely. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we talk to the why, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls our behavior, but because it doesn't control language, we have to rationalize those decisions. This is, by the way, where gut decisions come from. There is no part of your stomach that controls decision making. It's not in your blood, it's not in your bones, and you're not following your heart. We ascribe it to different parts of the body because the part of the brain that controls behavior doesn't control language, and the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just feels right, right? And it's not an accident that we use the verb to feel to describe a decision, because the part of the brain that controls feelings also controls decision making. And this is where these bonds of trust come from, right? They are feelings. And they are feelings based on a common set of values and beliefs, not based on what you do. This is why we don't trust politicians, right? Authenticity, by the way, is when all of these pieces are in balance. Authenticity means the things you say and the things you do, you actually believe, right? The way you present yourself to the world actually reflects your own beliefs. We live in the tangible world. At the end of the day, a why is just a belief. That's all it is. Hows are the actions we take to realize that belief, and what's the results of those actions, the things we say and the things we do. Everything tangible and everything measurable. If you don't say and do the things that you actually believe, no one will know what you believe, and they will have weird feelings about you. Like I said, this is why we don't trust politicians, because they tell us everything they think we want to hear, but it's not what they actually believe. And so, because we're very highly attuned social animals, we have the ability to read each other. We have the ability to sense each other. This is why the video conference will never replace the business trip. You can't get this over a video conference. And here's the coolest part. You feel that? You feel that? Weird, right? Cool connection. Here's the best part. Here's the best part. Here's the best part. Other people can feel it too, even though we're not making eye contact with them. This is the power of social, of the human animal. The single most accurate machine to measure trust is the human being. Not, what's that 1 through 5 thing?
Likert scale.
What's it called?
A Likert scale?
Whatever. No, the Net Promoter Score.
Oh yeah.
Right? Net Promoter Score doesn't measure loyalty, right? It just measures if you did your job right, right? It's a good measurement for, on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely would you be to recommend our company to somebody else? Oh, I gave them a 4. Well, that's just because we met all the expectations, right? But if they're willing to turn down another product that's cheaper, a better product that's cheaper, that's loyalty. Net Promoter Score doesn't do that. Loyalty is best measured by this, unfortunately, right? And I have some theories as to how we can create measurements, but that's a different conversation. And so, what I started to learn is the more I talked about this why, the more I worked very hard to say and do the things I actually believed, the more people knew what I believed. And the more they knew what I believed, if they believed what I believed, they were weirdly drawn to the things I was saying and the things I was doing. And likewise, I became much better at watching and looking for the things that reflected my beliefs, so I found it much easier to make my own decisions, right? If I ask you to find the people who believe what you believe, you know exactly what to do. You're going to go out on the street and you're going to strike up a conversation, right? We know how to do this. We know how to form relationships, right? We're hardwired for it. It's called dating, it's called making friends, it's called networking. We know how to do it. The problem is it's not scalable, because you're the only one getting the feeling about them, right? Now, if I tell you to go outside and find all the people wearing red hats, it's easy. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. You can spot them easily when you know what to look for. Every decision we make in our lives as individuals or as organizations is a piece of communication. Everything we say and everything we do says something to the outside world about who we are and what we believe. And if that information that they are receiving is consistent, they will put together a picture and say, you are trustworthy. Trustworthy does not mean you have all the right answers. Trustworthy means you're honest. That's what trust means. It doesn't mean being right, it means being honest. Right? And so when you say and do the things that reflect your actual beliefs, not what you think people want to hear, what starts to happen is, not only will people trust you, but if they believe what you believe, they're drawn to you. Leadership is the capacity to stand on a street corner and simply talk about your own red hat. Got a red hat. Got a red hat here. Got a red hat. And all the other red hatters, whether they know their own color of hat or whether they know their own why or not, are eerily drawn to you. This is why Jeep owners wave at each other.
Oh yeah, I do.
Don't understand
We
them.
do. We have one.
Honda owners don't wave at each other. Or people walking around with Harley Davidson tattoos on their body. Corporate logo, right? Nobody's walking around with Procter & Gamble, right? This is a corporate logo, but it's no longer a corporate logo, you see. Because Harley is so clear about what they believe,
Yeah.
so disciplined about how they do things, and so consistent in what they do, clarity, discipline, consistency, it gets the point that everything they say and everything they do serves as a symbol of a set of values and beliefs. That person put that thing there not to tell you about their motorcycle, they put it there to tell you about themselves. And the more symbols that we have available to us to tell people about who we are, the easier it is to find people who believe what we believe, to find that group to walk across the savannah with, to find the people who can trust us and we can trust them. And it's a biological problem, because it would be so much easier if we could just tell everybody what we believed, but the part of the brain that controls behavior doesn't control language, and so we struggle. This is why when we have a disagreement at work or at home, anything to do with emotions, we struggle to put how we feel into words, and so we default to metaphors and analogies. It's like I'm on a train, and it's like we're going really fast, and I can't put the brakes on, but I can see the cliff far away. This is how I feel. We're trying to put, and this is why stories, everybody's like, what's your story? Know how to tell your story. And it doesn't mean just, go tell a story. It means how to tell your story, right? This is why origin stories, talking about where you come from, talking about the things you do, talking about you can learn more about a person based on the leaders they follow than you know about the leader, right? If I tell you the people I admire are Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, John F. Kennedy, right? You're forming an opinion about me. If I tell you the people that I admire are Rupert Murdoch, Jack Welch, right? Michael Eisner, you're forming an opinion. Michael Ovitz, even better. You're forming an opinion about, right? It's not better or worse. The point is, it's based on the people that I admire, that I choose to follow, that I love, that I listen to. You're forming an opinion about who I am. And you're deciding, like the guy. Don't like him. Right? I haven't told you anything. Everything we say and everything we do, every decision we make is a piece of communication. And if that piece of communication is clear and consistent, people will form an opinion about you, whether they like you or not. If you just tell them what they want to hear, they won't be able to form opinions about you, and the only way they can judge you is based on price, quality, service, and features. It's called a commodity. Or if you're a human being, how good looking you are, how smart you are, how tall you are, how short, like we default to superficial when there's nothing else. Right? So when we say it's not on the outside that counts, it's what's on the inside, it's not entirely true. What you show people really matters. Right? This is where branding is really funny to me. Right? If I ask you to go home and talk to your friends, and I want you to ask them this question. Go home and ask your friends, how would you like me to speak to you so that you'll like me more? How do you want me to dress so that you'll find me more appealing? I value our friendship, and it's very important to me that I'm always presenting myself in a manner that you find me appealing. And your friends are going to be like, please, I value our friendship, but I want to make sure that I'm always dressed in a way and speaking to you in a way that you find appealing. And your friends are going to be like, what are you talking about? Just be yourself. It's just as ridiculous when we go ask our customers, how should we present ourselves? How should we talk to you? What kind of language would you like us to use so that you'll find us more appealing? We value you as a customer. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense, right? It's absolute nonsense. Say and do what you actually believe. People will be drawn to you by what you believe, and more importantly, the clearer you are about what you believe, you become the leader, because people will follow you, right? To be a leader, you only need one thing: followers. That's it. It has nothing to do with size. It has nothing to do with success. It has nothing to do with rank. It has nothing to do with education. It doesn't matter if you're the receptionist or the CEO. You are a leader when others choose to follow you. When others raise their hand and volunteer and say, I will sacrifice and go where you are going because I believe what you believe. That's what leadership is. General Motors sold more cars in the world than any other company for 77 years. Are they a leader?
No.
Apple has 5% of the world's computer market. Are they a leader? 5% is what they got. I think it might even be lower. Right? It's only like 7% in America. And even with staggering growth, it's still a pittance.
Yeah.
Right? They are a leader because others choose to follow what they do. They act on their beliefs. They ignore their competition because they don't care. And others choose to follow. This is what makes a leader. Leader doesn't mean big. Leader means blazing a path and being crystal clear about what you believe. Right? If we're standing in an empty room, we're standing in one corner of this empty room, and I give you a simple instruction. I want you to walk in a straight line to that corner. What do? Start walking. Without telling you, I put a chair in front of you. What do? Walk around the chair. Now you just disobeyed what I told you to do. I told you to walk in a straight line to the corner. But here's the remarkable thing about human beings. Progress is more important to us than the route we take. The destination is more valuable to us than the path we choose to get there. It's just a wonderful thing about human beings, and it's the reason we make progress. We are inspired by visions of the future before we get there, right? You literally, without thinking about it, just go around the chair. Let's reset. We're standing at the same corner. I give you a simple instruction. I want you to walk in a straight line to a point across the room. And you say to me, where do you want me to go? I don't know, you're smart, figure it out. And so you start. And without telling you, I put a chair in front of you. And what do? You come to a grinding halt. I say, what are you doing? Why aren't you going? You say, well, you told me to go in a straight line. You put a chair in front of me, how can I go? Or you'll make a sudden right turn and go in a completely different direction. And this is what we do in our lives, and this is what we do in business. Is we're busy counting the steps we're taking on the route, the strategy that we've laid out, our plan, and yet we have no sense of direction, no sense of why we set out on the journey in the first place. And we're very proud of ourselves when our numbers are so much. We walked 10 steps today. Yesterday we only walked 9 steps. Isn't that fantastic? Which direction are you going in? I'd rather you walk 1 step in the right direction than 10 steps in the wrong direction. And more importantly, when you are crystal clear in the destination that you are in pursuit of, when you're crystal clear why you set out on the journey in the first place, obstacles become minor. Literally, just walk around the chair. No big deal. And this is what I admire about great companies. You were talking about that more and more and more, you are less obsessed with what's going wrong and more obsessed with amplifying what's already right. And this is what you see in great organizations. All companies have problems. Apple has good management and bad management. They make good products, they make bad products. They make some good plans and some bad plans. They make just as many mistakes, and they have just as much chaos and bureaucracy as every other company their size. The difference is, it's no big deal. It's not oppressive, right? It's oppressive in organizations where the destination is not clear. All small businesses have the same challenges. Everybody's resource constrained, and everybody's wasting money, and everybody doesn't know what they're doing, and we don't know, got it. Can't afford this, can't afford that, don't know what to do, pressure from here, pressure from there, got it, all the same. The difference is those who have a clear destination of why they set out on the path in the first place, you deal with it in stride. And more importantly, you deal with it easily because you trust the people you're with. The way people always ask me, how do we ensure that that our company stays focused on our why? It's easy. Be very, very, very careful who you let in. And it has nothing to do with their resumes or their brains. The question is, do they belong here? It's like adopting a child, right? If you're going to adopt a child, don't you think you'd be a little bit careful who you let in? I mean, this person's going to live in your home. They're going to be there by themselves. You're going to give them keys. You're going to give them access to all of your secrets and your valuables. You want to love them, and they want to love you back, and you want them to want you to care for them, and you want them to care for you. And so we're really careful about who we adopt. What's the difference? What's the difference? Small companies keep referring to themselves like families, and yet they adopt kids off the street like nobody's business. Right? Ain't no family. Gang. Right? Families love each other and care for each other and trust each other. Tribes love each other, care for each other, trust each other. Strong cultures love each other, care for each other, trust each other. Right? Like, you're from New York. You don't really care about being from New York. You go to Los Angeles, all of a sudden, you love being from New York. Right? The most basic human desire on the planet is to feel like we belong. And when we are clear about why we do what we do, we can more easily find the people who believe what we believe. We can more easily see the people who believe what we believe. And more importantly, when there's a company that's crystal clear and why it exists, not a BHAG, that's just a big long-term goal. Not a some delineation of to be the preeminent supplier of the highest quality blah 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 blah. No one cares about you, right? When you say why you get out of bed in the morning, why this company needs to exist, there's plenty of choice. There's other people who can replicate. Everything you do is replicable. Everything. Every single employee here is poachable. Everyone, right? You do not have a lock on talent. You do not have a lock on technology. You do not have a lock on intellectual property. You got a lock on nothing. The only thing you have a lock on is that I trust you and you trust me. That's all you got. And as soon as that breaks down, sooner or later the rest of it collapses as well. All you got. It's a collection of human beings. That's what a company is. That's what a culture is. A group of people who want to be here, not just for themselves, but for each other. You know the Navy SEALs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Navy SEALs are considered some of the preeminent warriors in the world. And to become a Navy SEAL, you have to go through something called BUDS, which is Basic Underwater Demolition Training. It's a selection. The Basic Underwater Demolition Selection. It's a training they go through for however many weeks, and they have to carry telephone poles, and they, sit in the water, and it's all horrible and wonderful. Only about 10% make it through. So they volunteer to go to BUDS from all across the military, and only about 10% make it through. And there was an interview with a SEAL, and they asked him, who makes it through BUDS? And his answer was, I can't tell you who makes it through. I don't know. But I can tell you who doesn't make it through. He said the guy who shows up with huge muscles covered in tattoos because he wants to show everybody how strong he is, none of them make it through. He said the preening leaders who love to show up and tell everybody else what to do, none of them make it through. He says the star college athletes, who've always been at the top of their game their whole lives, none of them make it through. He said some of the guys that make it through are scrawny and weak. At least that's the way they look. He says some of the guys that make it through will throw up because they push themselves so hard. Some of the guys that make it through, you will see them shivering out of fear. He says, however, every one that makes it through, they have something in common, he said. He said, when they reach the point when they have nothing left, they are mentally exhausted, they are physically exhausted, and they have no energy left whatsoever. Every single one of them, some way, somehow, is able to go deep, deep within and find the energy to help the guy next to them. Those are the ones that make it through. Our most elite warriors are not the strongest. They're the ones who care about others first. This is what makes great societies, this is what makes great warriors, and this is what makes great companies. In the military, they give medals to people who are willing to sacrifice themselves so that others may gain. In business, we give bonuses to people who are willing to sacrifice others so that we may gain. We have it backwards. We have it backwards. The way we have organized our companies fundamentally destroys a sense of belonging, a sense of trust, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of inspiration, a sense of hope, a sense of positivity, a sense that we can accomplish anything and every obstacle is easy. We're literally building systems that destroy it because we measure our goals and we figure out strategies to achieve those goals. And if we miss the goal, we change the goal or we change the strategy. Go. But there's no sense why we showed up in the first place. Great organizations, just like great leaders, say something about you. When you say, I love working here, I know something about who you are. If you say, that's pretty good, I get paid a buttload, which is awesome. If somebody paid me more, I'd leave. If you say, I love it here, love is visceral. Like is rational. Even if you really like it, it's still rational. Love is visceral, and love is irrational. I can make more money somewhere else, I can work fewer hours somewhere else, I don't have to work for this guy, you know? But yet I stay here. And yet I stay here, I know. You want to know the difference between stress and passion? Passion is working your brains out for something you believe in. Stress is working your brains out and not knowing why you showed up. There is no difference. You're still working 8 hours a day, 18 hours a day for both. But the passion is when you know why you're doing it. You want to know the difference between sacrifice and suffering? Sacrifice is willing to give things up in order to get somewhere. Suffering is showing up every day, not knowing where you're getting to. And yet you keep giving things up. And you say, well, if I just put up with this long enough, something good will happen. No, that's called suffering. Sacrifice is always temporary because you're getting to that corner. Ability to articulate a world far from the future that does not yet exist. Find the people who believe in that world and want to help you build it is what makes great organizations. What did Kennedy say? We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Because it will serve as a test of who we are as human beings and what we're capable of. And people who believed in that said, sign me up. And in '63 he's assassinated, and yet we continued with his vision because it was no longer his vision. It was ours. He was the one who put it into words. Our jobs say something about who we are. Being fulfilled, the reason I'm here, the reason I'm happy to support Charlie in everything he does, is because fundamentally he is talking about and putting into words and trying to build a picture of a world that he imagines in the way businesses should work. And this picture that he's building says something about who he is and the people he wants here. And the people who work here fundamentally love it. They wake up every day inspired to come to work, and they go home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that they do. And anything I can do to make sure that that never cracks and that continues to grow, and more importantly, we figure out a way that we can share that model with more and more companies, that means more and more people wake up every day happy. You know the bullying epidemic we have in the world? I think there was just another kid who killed himself the other day because of bullying, right? It's the problem with the internet. In the old days, you get made fun of at school, people hear about whatever, you tripped over in the cafeteria, did something stupid, they'd hear about it, it'd be rumors, it lasts a couple weeks, it dies away, you're gone, you're good, right? Now, somebody takes a picture of it, takes a video of it, puts it online, and it never dies, it lasts forever. That humiliation never goes away ever. We're in constant fear, all of us. You don't have to be a child, we're all in constant fear that we will somehow be exposed forever, eternally, stuck online, right? We have an epidemic of bullying in this country that is literally costing children their lives. They're killing themselves because the humiliation is overwhelming. So here's a remarkable fact. Harvard did a study that parents who come home late, the negative impact it has on the raising of their children is negligible to zero.
Good.
The parents may have guilt, but the effect on the child is minor, even nothing. However, a parent who comes home who hates their job, the child is more likely to be a bully. You want to know why we have bullies in this country? It's not the kids, it's that the parents hate their jobs. You want to know why I believe in this? It's because we fix the world if you make people love going to work. People who love going to work are happier people. They have happier children, their kids grow up more confident, their kids grow up happier. They treat each other better. They have happier families. They come back to work happier the next day, they treat each other better, they treat their customers better. You don't need training to treat people well. It's called being a happy person, you treat people well. You're in a good mood, you're nice to the waiter. You're in a bad mood, you treat everybody like dirt, right? And you treat people well, then they go home happier. And they have happier families, and they go to work the next day, and they treat their customers better. It's called world peace. That's what you're doing. Saving the world. Right? The funny thing is all of the increased sales and all of the increased this and all that's just the lucky benefit of being a why-focused company. A why-focused company, fundamentally the people want to be there, are driven to be there, are passionate about being there, and first and foremost care deeply about each other. I cannot stand it when companies say, we put our customers first. That means your employees come at least number 2. We put people first. Some of them buy from us, some of them work for us. We put people first. And when we put people first, the numbers follow. When we put numbers first, people fall. Follow. People follow, right? That's what it means to be a leader. That's all I got.
Nice job.
Questions, anybody? Because on the phone, I know it's a little difficult, so if you guys have questions, shoot or text Greg, or if you raise your hand, maybe we can figure out a way to get your question here. But anybody here? Questions? Simon?
So what's your tip on how someone can figure out what their why is?
There's a few ways. We actually, when I would do it with people, there's a whole thing where it's not just your why, it's your why and your hows, which are your natural strengths. It's all pieces. We have a course online called Why University at startwithwhy.com that we developed that took the whole process that I would do with people, and it's a self-guided course you can do with someone. The other ways I can just tell you. There's a fun little way you can do it, sort of like a shortcut way. Go to the people your why is fully formed by the time you're 18, 19, 20, right? Just like the why of an organization comes from the birth of the organization, your personal why comes from how you grew up. You know, the way your parents, the things the parents taught you, your teachers, your experiences. The rest of your life is simply opportunities to either live in balance or not. That's what a career is, right? So go to the people you love. You don't have to worry, talk not like love. Your closest friends, and don't do it with spouses. It's too close. Now there's reasons for it, but it's like when outsiders come in and tell you the same thing that the insiders have been telling you. You're like, I've been trying to tell you that all along. Go to the people you love, your closest friends, the ones that even if you haven't talked to them in 2 or 3 years, you know that if they called you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd pick up the phone and help them no matter what. They know that you would. And you know that if you called them at 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever you need, right? Deep devotion to each other, love, right? Find those few friends and ask them this funny question. Why are we friends? Right? Now the irony about finding your why is you don't actually ask the question why. Because when you ask why, it's an emotional question and you get emotional responses. Why are you home late? Shut up, Dad. Right? So you actually ask what? What were you doing last night that you're home late? Well, as with my friend, right? You give people a rational question, they give you a rational answer. You give them an emotional question, you give them an emotional answer, right? So you start with, why are we friends? And what you'll get is an emotional confusion. In other words, they can't put it into words. So what they'll say is, what? Why are you asking me this, right? I don't know, right? That's what you'll start with. Then you go to what? And you say, come on. What is it about me that we're so close, that I know you'd be there for me no matter what? What's so special about me, right? And they'll be confused. They'll say, I don't know. I don't know. Right? It's not that they don't know, it's that they can't put it into words. And so they'll start to describe you. They'll start rationalizing. They'll start saying, I don't know, you're fun, you've always been there for me, you're smart. They're trying to describe you. So you have to play devil's advocate, right? You go, good, that's the definition of a friend. All your friends do that. What is it about me that you've always been there for me? Oh, why are you doing this? Don't let anybody help, and you're not allowed to help them. They have to go through the stress, okay? Some will go through it quicker, some will go through it slower, right? And again, they'll get deeper and deeper. And you say, good, that's the definition of a best friend. What is it about me? And eventually, when you keep asking all these what questions and picking holes and everything they're saying, they'll give up. They'll eventually say, look, I don't know. And they'll start describing themselves. At the point they start describing themselves, you're onto it. And they'll say, I don't know. And this is what my friend said to me. All I know is, I don't even have to talk to you. I can just be in the same room as you and I'm totally inspired by you. Right? We don't have to speak. And I got goosebumps. In other words, I got getting them right now. In other words, I had an emotional response to something they said, and the reason I had an emotional response is because it's deeply personal. It's who I am, right? And even though your friends may not use the same words, the meaning will always be the same, because you are is the value you have in their life. In other words, it's consistent. So the thing you give to the world, your why, the reason you show up, is the value you have in their lives. So it's consistent for everybody. It's the same for a company. Who you are is the value you have in that other customer's life, in their existence. That value is not price. So that's a quick exercise. Like I said, it won't give you exact words, but it'll give you, you'll get it like this, and you'll realize that all the times where you actively manage that. So I know that when I wake up in the morning with the single purpose to leave the room, leave the house, write something, say something, do anything that inspires people to do what inspires them, I'm much happier and more fulfilled by the work that I'm doing. When I'm chasing the almighty dollar, or when I'm doing something for personal gain, or I date the girl just because she's pretty, or whatever it is, it lasts for a short period. It's a great short-term strategy. But it doesn't last. And I don't have the passion to put up with suffering, sacrifice as much, right? I have tremendous ability to put up with horrible things when I care about this. So it actually, you'll see all the times in your life that everything went well, you'll see that this was present and driving you. And all the times where you really struggled, even though you've done this 100 times, I don't know why it's not working now, you'll see that that wasn't there. It's a great, nice little quickie version. Yeah, you're welcome. It'll freak you out. You might. The trick is when they start talking about themselves, and it's correct. You've tapped it when you have an emotional response. You don't be like, yeah, that kind of sounds like. No, that's rational. If you sort of get one of these deals, or you get goosebumps, or you well up, some of you might cry. When you hear, it's an amazing thing. When I would take people through the process of the why discovery, and I simply put into words the thing that they feel, they know instinctively to be true, but they've never said it. I just say back to them, here's your why. I've had congressmen burst into tears. Just, they can't help themselves. And I'll say, why are you crying? You're like, because that's who I am. Like, it's how it comes out. It's beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
How do you avoid darkness with your model? Because if you constantly follow people who reinforce everything that you believe, how do you grow? How do you avoid people who prey on things that you believe that are maybe not so good?
Actually, so for those of you in the phone, I don't know if you can hear the question. Jessica was asking about how do you avoid darkness? Is that?
So how do you avoid darkness? I'll just restate the question for. How do you avoid darkness? How do you avoid people preying on you or making mistakes, or just being surrounded by yes men because you will, right? That kind of thing?
Not so more
No.
worried on the leader perspective. Like Hitler was very good at collecting people who believed what
Ah,
he believed,
okay.
and that didn't go so well.
Okay. Depends who you ask. When I was a little kid, my grandfather was a navigator in the Royal Air Force, and I was a little kid, and I asked a little kid question. I said, Grandpa, in World War II, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys? To which my grandfather responded, depends whose side you were on. And he was right. There's a great interview if you want to go see it. It's really wonderful. It's on YouTube, where, did you see Inglourious Basterds? Great film if you haven't seen it. So Christoph Waltz plays the Nazi, right? And he goes on David Letterman, and David Letterman says, how did you prepare to play evil so effectively? And Christoph Waltz looks at him and goes, he wasn't evil. And David Letterman, confused by the answer, says, but how do you find, where do you go as an actor to personify evil like that? And Christoph Waltz looks at him confused. You can see they're not having the same conversation, right? And the reason Christoph Waltz was so effective is he understood is that people who do evil don't think they're doing evil. Evil is, we're the great Satan, right? According to some around the world, right? In other words, no one who does evil thinks they're doing evil. In other words, all whys are good. There is no such thing as a bad why, okay? The manner in which they may conduct themselves is the evil part, right? But the cause itself, Hitler's cause was not evil, right? Frustrated and angry that this great nation of Germany had quit so quickly and easily, didn't even ask for anything when they surrendered in World War I. And he's out there in the trenches, fighting for his country. They didn't even ask for anything. They didn't even negotiate. They just said, whatever you want, whatever you want. They're humiliated. Their economy's in the dump. He's like, come on, we're worth more than this. Good. And that's what originally attracted people to him. It was a message of hope. When it became a power thing and it became completely bastardized and it became about blaming people and it literally lost its optimism, that's where we go off the rails, right? So be very careful about judging a why. All whys are positive, right? And when the why is clear, you want to go about it in a productive manner. And so the question, when you say how to avoid it, you know, it is very tricky. If you stand up and state your why, and someone with selfish desires lies to you, says, I believe what you believe, right? This is what the problem celebrities have, or very successful people have, or the rich have, or everybody wants something from them. They don't know who to trust. The more successful you become, even as a company, you know, somebody says they work for Facebook or for Apple, everybody wants to be friends with them, right? You're in that boat. The more you become known, you're going to become very popular. Individuals, not just as a company. Who do you know who to trust? How do you know who to trust? Right? And it does actually become more difficult. And so this is why the relationships are the same no matter what, right? If you go on a date with someone, right, and after 3 dates, you announce to your friends, I'm getting married. Your friends will be like, it's been 2 weeks. You'd be like, I know, we're in love. But it's only been 2 weeks. I know, it caught me by surprise, dude. Right? We know too soon. We know it's too soon. After 7 years of dating someone, your friends look at you, why aren't you married? We know something's wrong there too. In other words, we know the human relationship takes time to evolve. We know that it's more than a week, and we know that it's less than 7 years. I can't tell you where it is though, right? And so the way you suss this out is time. You're going to get to know people. You need enough information to be able to go, says all the right things, doesn't feel right, gonna trust my gut, don't know what it is. You need enough time. 1 or 2 instances. So I'm dating a girl now, right? We went on a date. It was our 2nd or 3rd date, and we spent an entire day together, right? It was the most incredible date in the world. I mean, I'm thinking, I'm marrying this girl. I mean, right? And so I saw her the other day, and we had this conversation because we had a bit of a weird patch because I was too excited. and I'm the girl in the relationship. She's the one who's like, well, hold on, you know? But we said after that first date, we thought we knew each other better than we really did. I said, now we actually know each other better than we're giving ourselves credit for, right? The point is we went on the time. It's only time. And so, you know the old adage, you know, fire slowly, what is it? Fire quickly, hire slowly, fire quickly, right? But we usually do the opposite. We hire quickly and fire slowly, right? Spend a lot of time getting to know people before you let them into your family. Spend a lot of time getting to know somebody. Take little risks. It's human relationships. It's just like dating. You don't start by sleeping over. That's not a first date, right? First date is talk on the phone, right? Then have a longer conversation. Then maybe have a conversation at 10 o'clock at night. Then go for a coffee, then another coffee, then a lunch, then a dinner movie, then a whole weekend, you know, then a whole, give it time. And escalate it. You take a little risk, they take a little risk back. You give a little more, they give a little more back. You give a little more, they don't give a little back, you pull a little bit back. It's all the same. It's just human relationships. I hope that answers the question. Kinda, sorta, not really.
So
It's tricky.
This is a question from our UK office. So you talked about the kind of the combination of starting with the why
My
and
book
the
just came
how.
out.
So the question was, once you've got the why or started to figure out, how do you translate that to action, presumably the how?
So after you have the why figured out, how do you translate that to action? It takes courage. It takes discipline, right? So what did Thomas Edison say? Vision without execution is hallucination, right? In other words, when and this is usually most companies, when an organization is fixated on their metric and their strategy, it's a bad model, and it destroys trust over the course of time, right? Though you seem to be making progress. In other words, you're making lots of steps, you just have no direction, right? The opposite is also true. If you have a clear why, but you're not actually getting anything done, oh, it's so inspiring and amazing, but there's no progress, and it's just as stupid, it's just as dangerous, and eventually people abandon you because I was drawn to it, but there's nothing happening. So action matters, right? And so then it's just the courage of decision making, which is when you know why you showed up today and you know what your company stands for. The question is, given a set of decisions that could be made, which ones are the right decisions to make? Make them. And it's very hard, because sometimes you will make short-term sacrifices for the long-term gain, whereas the other model, you'll make short-term gains, but you'll make long-term sacrifice, which is not what you want, right? There's a cookie little book if you want to read it. I can even just tell you the whole contents right now. It's not very complicated. It's called Finite and Infinite Games. I think we talked about it. Finite and Infinite Games. Here, I'll save you reading it. Basic idea. In game theory, there's two types of games. There's finite games and there's infinite games. A finite game is defined by known and fixed players, known and fixed rules, and the objective is agreed upon by all players to end the game, right? Baseball, right? An infinite game is defined by changeable rules, sometimes unknown rules, unfixed and changeable players, and the objective is to perpetuate the game. Okay, so like the drug war, right? The government of Colombia is playing a finite game. They want to end the drug war, right? They want to beat the drug dealers. They're talking about a finite end, right? The problem is the drug dealers are just trying to do more drug deals. They don't really care about the Colombian government ending, or they just want to do more. Infinite versus finite. The problem is most companies have organized themselves around a set of finite rules, quarterly, annually, goals and objectives. They think they know who all their competitors are, and they try to play by some set of rules. The problem is business is infinite. The players are always changing. If you think you know all the players, one comes out of nowhere, right? There are no rules except what the law provides. Beyond that, have at it. You know, some of it's unfair. You buy customers if you want. Yeah. And the objective should be to perpetuate the game, not to win the game, right? So this is the problem, is companies use finite terminology. They talk about winning and losing. They talk about all the things that they talk about the rules, they talk about the competitors, they talk about the players, all finite. The reality is, it's an infinite scenario, and you want to play in the infinite scenario. In other words, the objective is for this organization to last for 100 years or more. The objective is that as you continue to exist, you will have more and more impact, not just inside your company, but outside your company. To accept that you don't know who all your competitors are, and some of them might be smarter than you. To accept that you don't know everything, and every plan you come up with doesn't go according to plan the minute you implement it. Now go figure it out, right? And this is what great companies do. They're looking so far ahead that they're playing infinite games. That's what's happening. And so to be once you know your why, now the question is not how you never actually reach it. You never get there. But how do you spend your career, your life, in pursuit of it? That's the noble journey, right? And it's hard. It's very hard. And it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to make short-term decisions. None of those are a problem, because you're allowed to. But if you make too many, then we don't know who you are. There's a metaphor I have called the celery test. It's just a metaphor for whether you're doing this or not. So we're constantly getting advice from different people, different places, different books on how to do things, what to do, right? And it's like going to a dinner party and somebody says to you, do you know what you need in your business? M&Ms. If you're not implementing M&Ms, you're leaving money on the table. Somebody else says to you, rice milk. In this economy, you gotta be into rice milk. Somebody else says to you, Oreo cookies. We invested in Oreos, we made a mint, right? Somebody else says to you, celery. It's all about celery. All perfectly good advice from perfectly smart people who've got perfectly perfectly good case studies and all have done perfectly well following their own advice, right? The problem is which advice you follow. So you go to the supermarket and you buy Oreos and celery and rice milk and M&Ms, right? You spend a lot of time at the supermarket, you spend a lot of money at the supermarket. You may or may not get value out of some or all these products, we don't know. The worst part is when you're standing in line at the supermarket with your celery and your rice milk and your Oreos and your M&Ms, you bought everything. No one can see what you believe because you bought everything and they walk right past you, right? Now let's imagine we know our why. That our why, so we're starting with why, our why is to always be healthy and only do things that protect the health of our bodies. Now, you get all the same great advice from all the same great people with all the same great case studies. Now, which products do we buy?
Rice milk.
Celery and rice milk. The only two that make sense. We spend less time at the supermarket, we spend less money at the supermarket, so there's efficiencies. We're guaranteed to get value out of both these products. When we're standing in line at the supermarket with only celery and only rice milk, now people can see what we believe. They'll walk past and say, I can see that you believe in being healthy, so do I. You just attracted a customer, an employee, a supporter, press, whatever. Simply because you said and did the things you actually believed and they knew what you stand for. Here's the best part. Before I said which products we're going to buy, as soon as I said the why, every single person in this room knew, without a shadow of a doubt, which products we were going to buy. That's called scale. And the clearer an organization and the leadership of the organization puts the cause into words, the more easily any employee can make the right decision without having to trust the gut of the guy on top. That's called scale. When the why is clear, the decision making is easier. Now, I understand in business sometimes you have to make short-term decisions. You want to eat a piece of chocolate cake? No, do so knowing full well you're only doing it for the short-term cash infusion, you're only doing it for the short-term sugar rush, but do so knowingly that you're putting yourself out of balance, you're going to have to work extra hard to get out of it, and do so knowing that this is not setting you up for the rest of time. The amount of companies I talk to, they think there's one client that's the biggest piece of business they've ever won. That's it, they're off to the races, except it's the single worst fit they've ever had. If you're going to do that, just do so knowing that it's for the short-term gain that you need and you understand that it comes with a price. Just don't do too many of them because then you'll start to go fuzzy when you won't know. A piece of chocolate cake now and then in a whole bag of vegetables, totally fine. You're allowed to make mistakes, you're allowed to make short-term, just don't make too many of them. Then you start to look like AOL. What do they stand for? Couldn't tell you. Just a big pile of mush.
One more question? Anybody here or anybody in the room? Jackie?
Do you think you can have a separate personal and professional why, or do you think they should be one and the same, and you should bring sort of your personal why to work, or?
The question is, can you have a separate personal and professional why, or do they have to be one and the same? The only difference between work and home is the clothes you wear and the desk you sit at. It's you. The reason your friends love you is because of you. The reason your colleagues love you, because of you. And if you're different at home than at work, then in one of those two places you're lying, right? You are who you are. That's the answer is of course. There is no difference between professional and personal. We have created it. It is artificial, right? Literally, the thing I do for money and the desk I sit at, and the thing I do for, I don't know, happiness and joy, and the desk I sit at, they should both be about happiness and joy.
Yeah.
There's no difference. Your personal why and your professional why are one and the same because it's you. And what you do is academic. It's down here. This is what we care about. So yeah, you have to be yourself wherever you are. Yes?
I think part of what might cause that feeling is that people see in their own lives they want to do a lot of different things with their lives. They feel like they have a lot of whys, maybe.
Yeah.
But whereas a company seems like it may be more of a single direction.
Yeah.
Do you think that is there such thing as a more narrow or more focused why, or?
You only have one why. When anybody says I have 6 whys, then you don't know what it is. Right? That's like having 6 priorities.
It's true.
Which one wins? You know? You only have $1 to spend. And you got 6 priorities. So you only have one why. An organization only has one, and a person only has one. The flexibility you have to bring it to life is the infinite part. Virgin owns over 300 companies. They all have the same why. Bill Gates He believes that everyone, if we can help people be more productive, they can achieve their greatest potential. And he brought that cause to life with a company called Microsoft, which took advantage of this new thing called the personal computer. And if we could make the personal computer more accessible to the average Joe, right, we could be more productive and achieve our greatest potential. Right? That was the cause. It became a software company later, meaning it stopped talking about that and started talking about this, right? Now go listen to his TED Talk. He's talking about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he's replaced the word personal computer with mosquito nets, and he's still talking about productivity and potential. In other words, the cause is the same, what he's doing is different. You'll make an infinite number of decisions throughout your life, and you want to make as many of them consistent with who you are and what you believe. And likewise, a company can go into any industry and any product they want, as long as it's consistent. Just because you're in small electronics doesn't mean you have to stay in small electronics. You can go into anything as long as the cause is the same. The more focused the cause, the more flexible the execution of that cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you.